urge each and every one of you, if you think the sales tax would help, we can't do that unless we get some help from changing what happens in the legislature. And I think that would be one place. Again, that won't work for this year. I think that's one place. Changing some type and having some funding from sales tax for day-to-day operations would help Emanuel County a whole lot. All right, John, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Page and Dr. Kraft, very much for your presentation, and thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I think it's about compromise. We would be willing to give a little, just not as much as you're asking. But I mean, if y'all want me to do the research, I'll volunteer my time to do the research to look into a 4-day school week. I'll do that free of charge to anybody. You know, just so that there's some compromise. If y'all are willing to give a little, I mean, we wouldn't mind maybe a little increase, but not this much when there's no compromise that we see coming from y'all. It looks like we're getting this increase, period. You know, I mean, you know, there were several things that were mentioned. Going to the 4-day week, charging out-of-county residents for attending our schools. You know, maybe look at cutting more support staff, the maintenance, the computer technicians, the whatever, instead of cutting teachers where the instruction is the most important thing that we're trying to get across here. I mean, just give us some sense that y'all are going to look at something else, and it's not like we got to make this decision for this millage rate by the end of the week, period. And we don't have any say-so.
Well, we are going to take everybody's thoughts and concerns into consideration. We will be meeting and we will discuss some issues, and we've been doing that for a while, trying to find solutions and ways to handle some of these problems. And we welcome some public input, some public comment, but we will look into some things. I can't tell you what the total outcome is right now, but I tell you we will look into some of the suggestions y'all have made.
We were here last night talking to the county commissioners, and they tried to lead us to believe, I don't have any people believe it, that we're in a crisis right now that we might get some relief from in a couple of years. In other words, the tax increase they're proposing may not be permanent. We get the hospital in better shape, if we get the hospital in better shape. What you're proposing here tonight is permanent. Do you see any chance of rolling any of this back? Once you get it, it'll be there, right on.
Well, no. Over the last 11 years, we have lowered the millage rate more than we have increased the millage rate. Again, just like you said, 11 years ago, the millage rate was 10, went to 10 and a half. It's 11 now. In that period of time, it's dipped down some and come back up. We probably, in retrospect, should have been collecting about another $200,000 a year and putting in a reserve. If we put it in a reserve and not spend it, that's hindsight's 20/20, and it's hard to see. But that would have got us through this crisis. We've been on the low end of keeping our reserve, and we should have had a little bit more to come through this crisis, but we don't at this point in time. But yes, sir, we will look at reducing millage rate and reducing taxes when we're able, and we have reduced the millage rate in the past. Since I've been on the board, we've reduced millage rate several times. We've increased millage rate several times, but we've also reduced millage rate. Here in 2002, let me answer this. 2002, the millage rate was 9.08. Is that?
199 or 10.5.
Okay. 2003, 10.7, 2004, 10.9, 2005, 10.9, 2006, 10.864, 2007, 10.742, and 2008 was 11 mils. So, in those years, stayed stable. It went up a little bit, it went down. It went down 2 years. It stayed stable for 2 years, and it's gone up 2 other times. So, over the past 7 years, we have increased and decreased the millage rate. Yes, sir.
No, I had a question. I know I'm not originally from this area. I moved here about 7 years ago. And I know that your sport program is very important down here. But your extracurricular activities, have they looked into cutting some of that? Or I know you have it available to all your schools, and you're running 2 high schools. You know, maybe consolidated. The other things is, I know it's not a lot, but $1 is $1. Instead of scheduling night games, try an afternoon game, something that you don't need all those lights for the football field. Something that, you know, like when you're spending $100 a night just for electric. Something that would reallocate it, you know, because I know you may not want to cut it, but there might be some area for some cuts. Maybe not a large, transporting them not as far in the region, you know, make them a few more local games. Because I know that's not part of your quality education, but it is to be all-rounded, it is. But there should be some room for some cutting in some of those areas.
And some of those things have been done, and there may be some more that can be done. I think in some cases where they took the band to every ball game, they've not gone to every ball game at times. I mean, that's just a small example, but there have been some things done. Yes, we'll look at some other things.
A lot of the extracurricular activities now, there's room for cuts, I'm not saying that, but a lot of them, we also have what we call school activity accounts at each school, and those sporting events and the band boosters and all those extracurriculars have their own account that they basically have to keep in balance, and they fund themselves. I mean, we don't put any money into the program to buy shoulder pads or football equipment or that type thing, and they basically fund themselves based on the revenue that they bring in. Other than, and their transportation costs, they actually write a check to the Board of Education for their transportation and for the cost of their bus drivers and that type of thing. But they're also, I agree with changing some times and changing some days.
You have and you usually have a maintenance staff there at the school to open it, lock it, turn on the lights, turn off the lights. You know, all that type of is part of that funding. The other part is, which hasn't been addressed tonight, but they addressed it last night, is the fact that the dollar amount that each person is paying is actually going up. You're talking about a millage rate of 10, okay? But last night they gave the example that the $100,000 house was appraised at 40%, so it was $40,000. They got $2,000 off for the federal exemption, another $8,000 or $8,000 off, which so you're only paying on $30,000 at that 10%. Now they lost that $8,000, so you're paying that 10% on $38,000. So your dollar amount is definitely going up in that respect as well. Not only just at the state level, but at the county level. You know, I'm not at the school level. So I mean, the dollar amount's going up more than just the millage rate that you're talking about.
And you're right on that. Yes, Lisa.
Y'all said there was 31 teachers, or maybe not teachers, but people that could retire with full benefit. Is that right?
I
They
think.
have 31 plus years of experience.
Right.
So that's a full, I mean, they wouldn't lose anything. So if the RIF program is put in place, would that encompass forced retiring these teachers?
Our RIF policy, we actually had to write a RIF into our, well, you want to speak to that? Okay.
Well, that's not fun. Listen,
I mean,
a new teacher makes a whole lot less money than a retired.
I understand that, but that also gets into some legal age discrimination. I mean, I'm not being funny, but I mean, you cannot.
I mean,
Well, you cannot